Right. Welcome, everyone. I see our attendees building up here. Thanks so much for joining. Whether this is your first step session or you've been here for all three, we're so happy to have you. As folks are trickling in, giving a heads up that this is a webinar, so we don't have access to seeing or hearing you. You do have access to the raise hand feature, but we don't have a way to unmute you. So if you have questions, please use our Q&A box. We will be answering those questions at the end of our at the end of our second presentation, and making sure that we're addressing those as best we can. Today's topics are all going to be about submitting your IGETC and transcripts, and we'll talk a little bit about UC Reciprocity as well if you're someone coming from another UC campus. So if we can do our best to keep our questions limited to these topics, those are the experts who we have in the room with us. Before we get started, I'll just do a brief overview of STEP. If this is your first time joining us, you'll know what to expect in these next weeks. So this is the Summer Transfer Enrichment Program. We are here every single Wednesday from now through August to make sure that you are getting connected with the resources needed to help you transition into the university. These are scheduled to happen right before a deadline so that you're getting your action items ready and you're ready to meet the deadline as it comes along. Perfect. If you haven't registered yet, we do recommend you doing so via this QR code. When you register, it makes sure that you are getting the 1-hour reminders as well as our follow-ups. All of these sessions are recorded, and we have notes taken behind the scenes as well. And also, there are some other components that have meals included if you're going to be joining us in person. So we do ask that you RSVP if you're going to attend any of our in-person sessions. Perfect. So you are in Transfer Talks. This is one of our Wednesday webinars. We have different important topics every week, making sure that you're meeting all of your deadlines as you transition and putting you in front of the campus experts on each topic. So we've had sessions that are recorded from past weeks on housing and dining at UC San Diego, housing off campus, and meeting with advisors at UCSD. So those are recorded and on our website. We also host our Transfers Connect sessions. So these are socials based off of topics or connecting folks of similar identities, giving you a chance to just make some friends, build some community with fellow incoming transfer students. We had our first one this week, which was really exciting. And we'll have another one coming up for military connected transfer students virtually soon. Coming up in our next few weeks here, next week is going to be another hot topic. We will have financial aid. So making sure that you're prepared for your upcoming year. A heads up that this is different from our how to pay your bills, which will be happening later in the summer, but making sure you understand your aid package, what types of loans are offered there, and how to access that and how to access folks. On June 25th, we'll have Your Health at UCSD. There are vaccination requirements, and there's a UC plan called UC SHIP, also UC RAFT, and this is making sure that you have all the info you need to know what decisions you want to make in selecting plans. And then we'll have a military connected virtual social happening on June 26th. So lots of great things coming up in these next few weeks. Elizabeth, do you want to share about your program?
Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth. I'm the Research and Involvement Coordinator at the Train Transfer Hub. So what I do in my role is I support transfer students who are interested in getting into research and getting involved in other ways as well. So I will also have a portion of STEP, a series of webinars that will go over the basics about research labs, how to contact professors on campus. We also have a transfer student researcher panel, so you can hear from other transfer students and how they got involved in research. So yeah, a little bit about that.
And then we also have another full-time employee in our office within the Transfer Hub, Allie. She serves as our transfer retention specialist, and she's going to lead a series in collaboration with some campus partners and with some advice from previous transfer students on how to best transition into UC San Diego, setting yourself up for success, and really leaning into your previous experience from other institutions and how to translate that success here at UC San Diego. So lots of ways to support you in having a great transition this summer. And then we'll go ahead and transition to our main topic for today. Is IGETC and transcripts. We'll go ahead and pass off to our presenters, both from the admissions office as well as from a couple of the college's advising offices, and they will give you the info that you need to know. If you use the Q&A box, please wait until the end of the presentation, and we'll make sure that we're interfacing and making sure that these questions are answered at the end. And please know we have the time that we can support in answering those questions. I also ask that questions stay limited to these topics because those are the experts we have here in the room. But I'll go ahead and pass off to Timothy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tessa and Elizabeth. It's a delight to be here. So my name is Timothy Borch. I work as Assistant Director for Transfer Student Services in the Office of the Undergraduate Admissions. So again, this STEP program is amazing. It helps our transfer students to transition from wherever they're coming from to becoming Tritons here at UC San Diego. And IGETC is really an important component of this whole transition. And so that's what we're going to spend some time talking about today. And so next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded and recordings will be made available. There is a Q&A feature and we've already received at least one question. And as Tessa mentioned, we'll get to as many questions as we can at the end. And then of course, we'll all be available throughout the summer and really throughout your whole time here at UC San Diego. But hopefully we'll be able to address some of those questions that come up during the actual presentation. And I'm confident we will. But thank you. Next slide. So the enrollment checklist. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this, but before we do, I do want to just mention, well, what is IGETC? So IGETC, technically, it's actually an acronym. IGETC stands for Intersegmental General Education Transfer Curriculum, or IGETC for short. It's a program at the community colleges, at a California community college. So we recognize and understand that not every transfer student coming to UC San Diego is coming from a California community college, although more than 90% do. IGETC is only applicable to those students who are coming from a California community college, but if you are what we call an inter-campus transfer from a UC campus, whether it's from UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, UC Davis, IGETC is not a tool that you will have access to, or it's not a program actually that you can participate in. However, there is the UC Letter of Reciprocity, which we'll spend just a few moments talking about, and then my colleagues from the colleges will talk about that as well. But so IGETC is a program that is not required for admission, but there are quite a few benefits to completing IGETC before you come to UC San Diego. Many of you who are California Community College students will have IGETC by the end of the spring term, and many of your spring terms are already over, and some of you will complete it in the summer, which is perfectly acceptable. So it's up to you as a student, but there are some benefits to having IGETC certification before you actually begin in the fall quarter, first day of instruction in the fall quarter. And again, we'll talk about some of those benefits, including completing lower division GE at most of the colleges and some other factors as well. So, but I do want to point out in the enrollment checklist, so all of our students have access to their applicant portal. The applicant portal has been the gateway that we've been communicating with all of our transfer applicants, and then the admitted students, and then those who have accepted the offer. The enrollment checklist became available to you when you accepted the offer of admission. This is just a screenshot of what it shows in your applicant portal, the enrollment checklist. It talks about mandatory next steps. It talks about creating your Triton Link account, and many of you have already done that. I know some of you are probably still in the process of doing that. Next slide, please, Elizabeth. This is a little bit more of a screenshot that actually shows you a little bit more of the enrollment checklist. And I'm actually going to share my screen in just a moment and walk through what it will indicate, what it does indicate, in fact, when you click on that transcript submission. So there is in the enrollment checklist, deadline to submit the final transcripts. You can see here, that's on July 1st. When you go into the enrollment checklist and you actually click on that blue tab where it says deadline to submit final transcripts, it pulls up a screen of information that I want to go through actually with you right now. So I'm going to share my screen, if I may, Elizabeth, for just a few moments. Thank you. And so hopefully everybody can see my screen. So this is what you will see once you click on that tab in the enrollment checklist. So it's great because it offers not only guidance, but also instruction on what some of those next steps are for submitting official documents. Remember, you must submit official documents, whether it's official transcripts or an official IGETC certification. And there are only certain ways that you can do that. You can't just sort of email us. In fact, an email copy is not considered official at all. So you can see here the required documents tab is available. And this is what you will see in your enrollment checklist. It says, excuse me, send complete transcripts only. And then it goes into instructions on how to do that. We do want to let students know that it may take up to 6 weeks for us to receive and review the documents due to the high volume right now. And so be patient with us, please. You will be able to see in your enrollment checklist when the documents are received. So July 1st, of course, is the deadline to receive official transcripts. Now, you do want to make sure that your official transcripts have the spring grades posted. That's really important. So sometimes students, they're really eager. They are offered admission and they send those transcripts out, but unfortunately the spring grades haven't been posted yet. So make sure that when you do send your official transcripts that those spring grades are posted. You have until July 1st, so there's still plenty of time, ample time to get those in. Technically speaking, the IGETC certification deadline is actually July 15th. But even going beyond that, students can actually submit their official IGETC certification before the first day of instruction. And that allows students who are taking courses this summer to complete IGETC because they understand the benefits connected to having IGETC certification and being a UC San Diego student. So you can see here, there is some additional information. For this example, this student attended Miramar City and Mesa colleges, which are in the local area. It also talks about what they reported on their application for spring courses. But you will see here where it says received and reviewed and test scores. This is, as you scroll down further and further, this is where it will start to populate information when those documents are received. And so making sure that you're checking your enrollment checklist on a frequent basis is a very, very smart strategy for students. And then it talks about how to request the transcripts and what's considered official. There's also information about UC Reciprocity, which we mentioned a little bit briefly earlier on, and we'll talk a little bit more about as well. More and more students nowadays are sending the transcripts electronically. So each of the community colleges, or if you're at a four-year university, maybe another UC or a university outside of California, the transcript office, whether it's in the registrar's office or the records office, you go to that office and you say you want to have an official transcript sent to UC San Diego's Office of Undergraduate Admissions. When they use a department, when they use a service like Parchment, which is probably the most common electronic transmission service, it basically, you won't even see it. It goes from one college to the next. We receive it, but you'll see record of it in your applicant portal on the enrollment checklist, which is really, really important. Oh, I'm sorry, Tessa, did you have a question or a comment?
I did. I just wanted to reiterate because we've had some concerned phone calls and emails in our office. If I submit a transcript to you and I don't see it immediately pop up in my portal, am I okay?
That's a great question. The answer is yes, because you won't see it immediately. We're going to allow, you need to allow up to 6 weeks. And so even beyond that, I would say, and that's a good question, Tessa, you would want to follow up with the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. Let's say if you don't see it in your applicant portal by late July. You know, if you don't see it by late July, at that point, then definitely let us know, send us a message, you know, let's follow up on that. These community colleges and other universities are sending and transmitting a lot of documents. So it's feasible that maybe your document was not submitted, or maybe there was a problem in the transmission process. And that's not that uncommon. It doesn't happen to everybody, certainly, but it does happen from time to time. So continue to monitor your enrollment checklist by mid to late July. Let us know, send us a message, say, hey, what's going on here? I don't see anything. And then we'll be able to address that. So, but at this stage, we really just need some time in order to receive and process all those documents. And so that's very normal. And so here you can see it talks more about instruction, and it really is important. We're not going to read through everything here. You have access to it in your enrollment checklist. But you can see here it talks about whether it's IGETC certification or whether it is the UC letter of reciprocity. So the UC reciprocity letter, it states here, you will actually send that to your college academic advising office. Now, as I mentioned earlier, and Tessa mentioned, we have a couple of wonderful colleagues who are going to be speaking in just a few moments about the college aspect of transcript, IGETC, receiving IGETC, and they'll be able to talk a little bit about UC letter of reciprocity. But the main difference is the letter of reciprocity doesn't actually come to the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. It actually goes to your college academic advisor. You know, I do want to point out, I saw a question earlier too. Do I have to send my high school transcripts? And that's a good question. So not off topic, but a little bit beyond the scope of this presentation. If you are going to satisfy your American in History and Institution requirements, so a graduation requirement at UC San Diego is you have to demonstrate what we call AH&I, which stands for American History and Institutions, the graduation requirement. If you took a course, a U.S. history course or a U.S. government course at the community college or in another four-year university and you passed it, that will satisfy the requirement. But if you didn't, but if you took 2 semesters worth in high school and you earned C grades or better, definitely send those high school transcripts to us, because then you'll automatically have that graduation requirement checked off and you won't have to take an additional course here at UC San Diego. Those high school courses will actually satisfy that requirement. So anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, IGETC and the enrollment checklist. So again, definitely want to review this information very carefully. Many of our transfer students have AP, IB, or even in some cases A-level exams. You definitely need to make sure that those exams are sent to the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. And here it does talk a little bit about high school transcripts. And then finally, how to send the transcripts. So you can see all of the electronic vendors that we utilize. They're all listed here. Parchment is down there. Of course, that's the big one. But you can also send it in a postal mail if you want to send a hard copy. Remember, don't open it. So if you get an actual hard copy, you don't open it. It has to be in a sealed envelope. You could literally drop it in the mail. And that's kind of old school, but we definitely still see students that are doing that. And then there's also a list of some general dates to keep in mind on the enrollment checklist. And it goes really deep into all the way into September. So we're not going to talk about that. That's a topic for another time. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And Elizabeth, if you don't mind going back to the PowerPoint, we'll pick up where we left off. We have a number of examples that we want to share. Thank you. Next slide, please. So here, again, this is reflective of what I just showed you on the enrollment checklist, required documents, requesting your official transcripts. It lists in your applicant portal on the enrollment checklist which documents we are expecting. So you want to make sure you review that carefully. If there are any questions, definitely contact the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. But usually what we're doing is we're basically just taking all the information you reported on your application and we're plugging it into the enrollment checklist. And so if a student reported attending a college on their application for admission, they need to either submit an official transcript or a letter of enrollment verification verifying that they did not enroll at that college. And so that's a very common request also. So remember, if you did report attending college X, but for whatever reason, maybe in the spring, you just decided not to take a course there. It was like an extra course. Nevertheless, we still need some official record. If it's not an official transcript, a letter of enrollment verification, it's very simple. It basically would be an official letter on their letterhead, whatever their letterhead is. It would state that this student, provide your information, did not enroll at our college. Have a nice day, that kind of thing. So that's very important. Next slide. Sending transcripts again. So we already talked about that, but again, we were emphasizing how important it is to make sure that you're familiar with the enrollment checklist. All the information is there. So definitely check it out so that you can be supported and empowered in this process for submitting official documents and official transcripts. Next slide. And here you can see an actual example in the enrollment checklist, on the enrollment checklist, I should say, of when student transcripts had been received. So you can see here, it says, it even date stamps them. So you can see this student, their transcripts were received on the 14th of December of 2022. So that's just an example. And it'll look very similar on your enrollment checklist once those documents are received. Next slide. So we want to show you some IGETC examples. Now, there are 116 community colleges in California. And so not every college does it the same way. There's no standard template for each community college, but many of them have very similar traits, very similar processes. Remember that the IGETC can show up on an official transcript if it's very clearly delineated that it's full UC IGETC, and we have some examples, but In some cases, you will have to request an official transcript and an official IGETC certificate. So, but in some cases, it's the IGETC certification is noted on the transcript. So let's go through some of these examples. Next slide. So here's an example from MiraCosta College, which is located in San Diego. This shows a full MiraCosta College IGETC form. So you can see here, it runs through each of the areas for IGETC, and then at the bottom, or at least in the red, where the red box is, it shows that it's a UC version and it's full. And those are the two key factors we need to know. Is it a UC and is it full or partial? Because the California State University system, CSU for short, they also have an IGETC program. Their IGETC is slightly different than UC. So there are two different IGETCs, CSU and then UC. UC is the one that we need. UC is the one that we want. And then there are two different scopes of IGETC, partial or full. Most students will have full IGETC, although if you have partial IGETC, that's fine too. Make sure that the partial IGETC certification or the transcript clearly shows which areas are missing if it's a partial. A lot of times, unfortunately, the transcript will not actually indicate which areas are missing. So for partial IGETC, it is a best practice to request right off the bat from your community college that they actually send a partial IGETC certificate. Because if the partial IGETC is noted on the transcript, but it doesn't show which courses are missing, it will not be deemed an acceptable partial IGETC, and you would have to follow up with your community college at some point. But this is a great example of MiraCosta where it shows both full and UC. Next slide. Here's an example of Riverside City Moreno Valley College, a couple of community colleges that we get lots of students from. We get students from all over the state. And as I mentioned, not just from California community colleges, from other UCs, from other CSUs, from CSUs, and from other four-year universities throughout. But you can see here in this example, it looks a little different. You can see the template is different, but essentially it's the same. At the very bottom, it's saying it's IGETC certified for UC and it's full. It's just different the way it's formatted. So you can see, and it also indicates throughout the IGETC where the student took the courses. Many community colleges are part of a district, and that district is comprised of more than one college. And so in this case, you can see the student took courses at Moreno Valley, and they also took courses at Riverside City College. Very common as well. Next slide. El Camino College, another feeder college for UC San Diego. You can see here the format, once again, is different. There are some similarities. You can see it's sort of it's in a chart mode, sort of it delineates what the course areas are. There are some check boxes, there's date information, but usually at the very bottom, that's where it'll say whether it's full or partial and whether it's UC or CSU. And you can see down here, very clear, it states full IGETC certification, and the checkbox for the University of California is checked off, not the California State University. So that's perfect. Next slide. Santa Monica College, another feeder college, and you can see their format is a little bit different. So this is a partial IGETC certification. This came electronically, and the partial IGETC indicated on the second page, and you can see here at the very bottom, partial IGETC certification. The missing area is listed on the first page. So you can see at the top, that's actually 2 pages combined, the key parts of those pages. It clearly lists missing 1 area, 3 course, and at the bottom, at the very bottom, it does indicate partial IGETC certification. Next slide. Los Medanos College, again, another format. You can see here, it talks a little bit about the institution IGETC completed, not an acceptable IGETC. So you can see here, this is not acceptable. Why is it not acceptable? Because it's missing UC certification and it's missing full, complete, partial. It's basically an incomplete document. So it is important for students. I encourage students, we empower students to really, when they order this, to be really engaged in that process. Make sure you're asking the question, what will the IGETC certification show? They might even be able to send you an unofficial copy or maybe a courtesy copy so that you have a copy that you can see to ensure that the document we get is correct. It is incumbent upon the student to make sure that we receive the document. Even though there may be some sort of transmission problem or the community college has an issue with submitting the transcript or the IGETC certification, ultimately it is the student's responsibility. Next slide. Pasadena City College, and again, this is not an IGETC. This is another example of an electronic submission. Does not clearly list on the top of the first page or the bottom that it is a complete IGETC. So again, if this student in this example was just working with Pasadena City College and they requested to have this document sent, it would not have sufficed for the purposes of having their IGETC certification submitted to UC San Diego. Next slide. And with that, lots of good questions I see in the Q&A. We'll have time for those, but I want to pass it off to my college colleagues with the colleges, Michael and Janine.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Michael Gangiatano. I'm a senior academic advisor at Marshall College, and I'll let my colleague Janine introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Janine Krumka. I am also a senior academic advisor. I'm over at Revelle College. I use she, her pronouns, and I was actually a transfer student myself. So if anyone coming from Northern California, I went to Folsom Lake, Sac City, and American River College. So happy to have you all here.
Excellent. A success story of my colleague that I wasn't even aware of. I'd like to thank Tessa and Elizabeth at the Triton Transfer Hub for coordinating this session. I encourage all of you to attend as many sessions like this as possible. It is an intentional and deliberate way to onboard our transfer students and a really worthwhile program to take advantage of. I would like to reinforce some of the things that Timothy said during his presentation. And one was that your transcript and your IGETC certification or certificate are two separate documents. Your transcript does not give enough detail about your IGETC completion level. It very likely will notate that you have IGETC eligibility, but a transcript is not an IGETC certificate. Someone put a question in the chat that I really appreciated. I'm going to read it, which says, if I filled out, my community college sent my IGETC certification as a notation on my official transcript and sent it with a cover letter via parchment. Is this acceptable? It is not acceptable. I'll just be very transparent and clear about that, because your transcript is only going to notate your IGETC eligibility. Your IGETC certificate is what will be needed. And the clearest example that Timothy gave was the very first IGETC certificate from Miracosta College. And that was an example of a certificate. So that's an IGETC certificate. It is not a transcript. Your transcript is not an IGETC certificate. So I hope that I've made that really clear, because a lot of transfer students get confused about what to send and what they mean. So I'll probably say that one more time before the end of this presentation, but I want to keep going with the slides that Janine and I have to present. All colleges will accept IGETC. A full IGETC implies that all of your lower division general education is complete. But Janine, in a few minutes, will clarify that students coming to Revelle College will have some additional lower division GEs to complete, even with a full IGETC. A full IGETC only addresses lower division general education requirements. It does not satisfy a college's upper division general education requirements. So if you're a transfer student coming from a California community college, you will not have had an opportunity to satisfy your college's upper division general education. If you're coming from another UC as an ICT student, or perhaps an out-of-state college institution, it's possible that you have some upper division courses complete that may address upper division general education at your college. But your IGETC does not satisfy any upper division GEs that your college may require. Next slide, please.
All right, so I'll jump in now. Like Michael said, my name is Janine, and there's going to be some different requirements based on the college that you're actually accepted into. So I dropped in the chat for you all the links to each college. So if you already know where you're accepted, hopefully you can go ahead and take a look at that. Like mentioned, Revelle, I'm from Revelle, so specifically Revelle College accepts IGETC, but we still have additional requirements that needs to be met in addition to the upper division course like Michael showed on the last slide. So for Revelle specifically, I just want to kind of reiterate that we still require math and natural science courses for all students regardless of major. So please take a look at that and make sure that you're familiar with it, since that could be different. But it's important to look at every single college to see what their requirements are. And that's just for IGETC. Like Timothy mentioned earlier, we have a lot of students transferring from different places from everywhere. So one thing I just wanted to highlight as well as is UC Reciprocity. And one thing I can mention from Revelle's perspective is in the past, Revelle College did not accept UC Reciprocity, which is something if you're coming from one UC to another, all the other colleges do. But as of fall 2025, Revelle College now does accept UC Reciprocity. And to reiterate what Timothy said earlier, that letter, that specific UC Reciprocity letter that you get from your advisor at your current UC or former UC has to be sent directly to your college. So if you're a Marshall College student, you would send it to the Marshall address, which is on their website. Revelle, you'd send it to Revelle. So just kind of keep that in mind in your checklist of things that you're doing, depending on based on your situation as a transfer student, right? So you have your checklist you're going through, but just know if IGETC doesn't apply to me and I'm UC Reciprocity, there is something that you need to send in addition to your official transcripts. So just wanted to highlight that. So now we're on this part. I just wanted to say, like, each college has an advising team that's going to help you understand your overall degree picture, right? So Michael and I are just two of those people, but we do have teams at each college, and we're here and we're happy to help you. You'll hear from us throughout the summer. So please keep watching your UCSD emails when you get access to it if you haven't already received access to it. We send a lot of important information that way, and I know you get bombarded with emails, but it is very important. So organization, however that works for you, filtering that, saving it, making sure you get to it, because you're going to get a lot of emails, some from UCSD, some from your college specific, both equally as important. Some of the things that we do, we review your academic background. So in the summer, you're going to be completing that new Triton advising starting next week. So on Wednesday of next week is when that's going to open up, and you can start to access that information and complete that checklist, which is all the background information that we need. It's important for us. It's telling us what classes that you're completing right now, your test scores, your intended major if you're planning to change things. So we have a better picture of how to support you once you get here and what knowledge that we need to provide to you ahead of time for the things that you may not know. We also go through in the summer and make individual degree audit exceptions. So we spend a considerable amount of time in the summer reviewing your record and making sure that your record is updated. We can't do this until we have all your transcripts. So like Timothy mentioned earlier, give them processing time, be patient, don't expect it to be here instantaneously, but do your part as a student and sending all those things in a timely fashion. So sending them right when your summer or spring grades are finalized, right when you know you have your IGETC certification, right when your quarter grades are finalized, whatever that looks like, send it by the deadlines, because the quicker that admissions has it, the quicker they can process it, which is the quicker that the colleges can review your individual record and make sure that we piece together any of those classes that may not come in automatically through the transfer articulation agreements. So especially at Revelle College, just highlighting it, I know this is my college, but Revelle and Warren, those are the two colleges that require a lot of individual updates. So it's really important that we have all that information ahead of time and that you stay in communication with us. Your advisors, including myself, might need to contact you if you self-reported an IGETC on your academic background, but it's not on your record. So again, back to what we've been reiterating this whole thing is there's multiple ways that IGETC is sent. Sometimes it's included officially on the transcript. Sometimes it's just a certificate. Sometimes you need to send both. So make sure that you understand what's being sent. Make sure you're recognizing all those things from your community college or your multiple community colleges. Make sure you ask those questions and get that stuff sent ahead of time, because without it being officially on file, we have to go off the information that we have. So if that means I know that you have IGETC, but it's not on file, your degree audit is not going to be accurate, because it's going to show a whole bunch of different requirements that you may not need to take. So that is why it's really important for you to get that information in. We want to make sure that you're sending in, because we don't want you to take classes that you don't need. We understand that transferring and transitioning to different schools can be messy, so we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you, but that takes ownership on your part. It's your responsibility to make sure that your academic record is updated. So no one is going to know your record better than you, right? Like, we can go through and we can see what information that you have, but you're the one that has to take ownership to look back and make sure, is this accurate? Are all my classes accurately placed on there? Am I missing something? Is something not applying in the way that I think it is? That's going to be your responsibility, and I really empower you all to get that voice and feel confident in it. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help you. So sometimes we don't know things until you bring it up to us. So please feel comfortable coming up to any of us and asking these questions, even if you feel like it's quote unquote a dumb question, because it's not. This is your life. This is your record. This is important. So we want to make sure that you're taking all the classes that you need in a timely manner. Please keep out for communication that's going to be happening, July and August. Once your transcripts are received and processed, you're going to keep on checking that before enrollment starts. So when certifications are posted, we will be contacting you. We will be working diligently through the summer. You can use, I'm going to drop it in the chat in a second, but I just want to highlight that potentially you may not have access to everything right now if you don't have access to all your accounts, so don't be alarmed. But I'm going to drop into the chat where you would go to look up your academic history so that you can kind of keep an eye on everything. So here's the first link that I'm going to drop. If for some reason that does not work for anybody, like I said, don't be alarmed. It's fine. Your system will be updated eventually. I'm going to show you the public page right here that has all of the tools that you'll have access to once you're in. One of them is actually including the academic history. Thanks, Tessa, for sending that as well. So make sure to use this link in the My Triton link. That's the term that we use for it. It's all your tools in there. And that's your academic history. So this is your unofficial transcript, plus it's going to show all the classes when they apply, all your transfer courses, all the academic events. It'll show if you have IGETC. So this is something you want to be familiar with and you want to keep checking back. This is an example of kind of what you would see, which I don't have a screen. Well, the screenshot at the bottom, this is going to show you like what it would look like when your IGETC is here, if you have IGETC. Again, I know we're talking to a whole bunch of different types of transfers, but if you have IGETC, this is a little screenshot taken from the larger academic history that would show, yes, I have IGETC. If you have partial, it also will show partial, and it'll show the missing area, like was mentioned earlier. And again, you'll have full access after you complete your academic background, which opens next Wednesday. So you'll have full access to everything, and you can also ask questions to an advisor after you've submitted everything that we need. And next slide.
Okay, I'd like to offer some clarification that Timothy gave me about the Office of Admissions, who will absolutely recognize an IGETC that's full UC IGETC if it's contained on the transcript. I'd like to reiterate that your transcript very often does not contain that information, but it is contained on a separate document referred to as the IGETC certificate. So while some transcripts may verify UC IGETC eligibility, do not assume that your transcript is going to contain that information. So the second document, the IGETC certificate, will be required. So as transfer students, we really do understand that you're coming from all different types of backgrounds. You are veterans and parents and caregivers, and you've been in college for a minute, so you're probably not 22. So we know that once you get to UC San Diego, you are laser focused on your major and completing major requirements for graduation. However, there are college and university requirements for graduation that sometimes are easy to overlook by transfer students. So just having an IGETC or a UC Reciprocity letter does not waive additional university requirements for graduation. One of those is the ELWR, but if you've been admitted as a transfer student, the entry-level writing requirement has already been met, but you may not have sent the documentation Timothy was referring to earlier in the way of a high school transcript that verifies your completion of the American History and Institutions requirement. So I highly recommend that even though you're transferring, that you send a high school transcript, which will offer the irrefutable documentation that you have completed a course or series of courses that will clear the university's AHI requirement. So again, it's easy to forget about sending high school transcripts because, well, you're transferring and you may be 15 years from graduating high school, but your high school transcript, if you have completed high school at a California high school, will contain information pertaining to the completion of the AHI requirement. There's also a diversity, equity, and inclusion requirement required of all students, whether they come as transfers or first-year students. A DEI course is required and often can overlap with major and or college GE requirements. So a DEI requirement is part of the university requirements to graduate. Of course, you know, you have major requirements, but you have an overall unit requirement to graduate as well. Students coming in with full IGETC and who are in certain majors that don't have a lot of units associated with the courses within that major may need to supplement those unit totals by taking general electives of interest or declaring a minor. Simply because you have IGETC doesn't mean you will have earned enough units at the end of 6 quarters to graduate. So a cumulative unit count of at least 180 units are required to graduate, 60 of which must be upper division in nature. So 60 units or 15 courses that are upper division must be completed to graduate as well. If you're coming from another UC, you may have upper division courses on your transcript, or if you're coming from an out-of-state institution, you may have taken upper division courses, but IGETC only addresses lower division degree needs and not the upper division unit requirement to graduate. So 60 units of upper division, cumulative unit count of 180. There was a question in the chat about a letter of reciprocity, which you won't be able to send until mid-August. Can I still send it? Yes, absolutely. Since your letter of reciprocity will be received by the colleges, we will be taking those letters and processing them throughout the fall quarter. So please send that when you're able. And anything from you, Janine, on this slide?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I was just going to reiterate that I think a lot of students sometimes come in and they're, like you said, really excited to take their major classes, which is great. And we understand that's what you're here for. But there are additional classes that you may need to take depending on how many transfer units you have. So I just really want to reiterate that. So one really important thing, or one additional tasks to add to your plate of things to do during your first quarter after things have been cleaned up is to really create a personalized graduation plan for yourself, so you can see, is it possible for me to take 3 classes a quarter and still graduate within 6 quarters? Or do I maybe need to take 4 classes a quarter? Or maybe do I need to take a summer class in order to still keep with my deadline or my goals of graduating within those 2 years or the 6-quarter limit? Things are going to be different based on major, right? A lot of majors, every major requires at least 48 upper division units, but some require more. Like engineering students, they're going to have plenty of upper division units, so they're going to be able to meet that 60, no big deal. If you're coming in as a bio student, or you're coming in as a communication student, or even a psychology student, your major upper division coursework is not going to be enough to reach 60 total upper division units. So there's a lot of tools that we have, a lot of helpful planning tools. So I won't spend too much time on this, since that's another session probably. But please utilize those tools. Please look at them in detail, because just following whatever checklist that your major gives you about major courses sometimes, and most of the time, is not enough to reach that cumulative and 60 upper division, like Michael said.
Thank you so much to our presenters. That was so much information. I have some contact info here. Timothy, is this the best point of contact here through the contact form, or would you prefer students to reach out through their applicant portal? Is there a preferred method of communication?
So that's a great question. Either way is fine.
Okay.
This contact us form is another way. There are different ways through the applicant portal, but this is perfectly acceptable. Absolutely.
Wonderful. I have a list of questions here for all of our presenters, just based off of some frequently occurring questions in the chat. If you all also have time to just check out that Q&A, there's some niche ones here. But the first thing, I'll just go ahead and provide a clarifier. If your transcript says that you have full IGETC, then that is okay and honors the IGETC piece. And it says full IGETC and it says UC. That's a fine document. However, if you have partial IGETC, and if your college doesn't list that on your transcript, that will need to come as a separate document entirely. That's correct there? Okay. And if I am not, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Tessa, I just wanted Timothy to clarify that even the full IGETC doesn't necessarily show on every community college transcript.
Correct.
So that's what I really wanted to drive home to our transfer students today, is it's highly likely that your community college has a completely separate document to send on your behalf. So just sending your transcripts notating you are IGETC eligible will not clear your IGETC certificate need.
And then kind of a piggyback off of that question. If I took GEs at my community college, but I didn't complete IGETC, do those GEs go away, or am I still able to be seen for those classes?
I can start that one if you want. So based on what I was saying before in our summer review, if you came in from another 4-year institution, so say you from a New York institution, you're coming here, or you came from a CSU, or you did come from a California-based CC, but you don't have IGETC, or you didn't meet enough to get that partial IGETC, yes, those classes still count. That's where that individual review that we do over the summer really takes into account. So we're looking through and seeing, is this, I can speak for Revelle College, you know, is this class a class that we would accept for a natural science course? And then we're looking through and we're seeing if we can pull it in directly, right? Same with, oh, is this class a social science class? Is this class a fine arts class? Is this something that we can accept even if it doesn't have a specific approximation to a UCSD course? So yes, we still accept them. You're not starting off fresh like you would if you were coming in as a first year. There's still classes. It's just that's going to be extra important for you to know your record, know what classes you took, look at our requirements for each college that you're going through. See if something aligns there and question things. If it's not automatically done, you should question things because, like I mentioned earlier, you know your record the best. But yes, as long as the courses are UC transferable and you pass the courses, they're going to come in for something. Even if they're not a direct transfer to a GE, you're going to get elective credits that are going to go towards that 180 credits that you still need to graduate.
Thank you so much. And then what is the difference between partial IGETC and full IGETC? Am I still going to be asked to do under division GEs, or what does that look like?
So a partial IGETC means you are missing one or two areas of the IGETC, one or two. So that reflects in the partial notation. That means you can take the course or courses at UC San Diego to fulfill the missing areas.
And my lower division GEs would still be waived because I have partial IGETC in most colleges.
Right. So your degree audit will have a notation that says partial and show the missing area or areas and the course options that you can choose to complete the one or two missing areas. The rest of the lower division GEs would be complete with the exception of Revelle College.
Exactly. Yeah. Just to reiterate, Revelle College, we still have math and natural science, which again, depending on your major, may have already been done at the community college. Many students that, especially ones that have IGETC, you already have at least one math class and you at least have one or two science classes because you had to do it for there. So you're not coming in fully without it, but yes, those are the only lower division classes that you would need to take if you have full IGETC. If you have partial IGETC, like Michael mentioned, it's whatever area that you were missing at the community college. You can either meet it when you get here, and then it's kind of like we're piecing it together to make a full IGETC.
We also have a couple folks who've asked about what it looks like to have a P for pass on their transcript. Will that satisfy a passing grade requirement of a C- or higher, both for admissions and for that transferable credit?
That's a great question. I'll let Timothy speak to the admissions part of it. If it's like a pre-thing, you want to start with it? Go ahead, Timothy.
Sure. So that's a good question. And I responded to a question. So technically, a C- is not satisfactory for what we would call a 7-course pattern course. C- is considered a passing course in other respects, but also for transfer major preparation, a C- does not suffice unless General Biology has posted that they will accept a C- for a required major prep course. But generally speaking, and for this, if somebody is in this situation, in this scenario, they should reach out to the Office of Undergraduate Admissions to discuss the options and what the specifics are, because there are some variations. But in general, a C- will work, but not for completion of the 7-course pattern and not for transfer major preparation, again, excluding General Biology.
And what about a P for a passing grade?
If the P is equivalent to a C or better, it will satisfy the 7-course pattern, but it will not satisfy the major preparation. Major preparation courses should be completed and must be completed for a letter grade. A P is not considered a letter grade. It would be A, B, C. Those are the acceptable grades.
And then to add on to that from the college perspective, it's really going to depend, and also the department perspective once you're here. It's really going to depend on what the class is and what the requirement is meeting. So it's really good to get familiarized with your department and your college's website for the requirements. Many departments will require a C- or higher in all major courses. They'll say it specifically on there, and some of them do not allow pass, no pass. So it really depends on what the class is. Same for Revelle College for GEs. We have, multiple GEs. Some of them we require students to take for a letter grade. So for example, at Revelle, we require all our math courses to be taken for a letter grade. If you took a class prior to being here that was a pass, no pass math course, potentially you may need to take additional math classes here because of our policy. So you really have to kind of drill back and look at what the policy is and where you want that course to be, what requirement you want that course to be fulfilling. And then you can see, does that meet the requirement, a P, or does the major or college require an actual letter grade?
Are you all seeing trends in the chat here that I'm missing that you want to address specifically? I've seen a couple questions regarding if GPA carries over from a community college.
I just saw one
No.
about C GPA carrying over, and I answered yes. UC does, but CC does not. Sorry, go ahead, Timothy.
No, I was just going to say exactly what you just said.
So UC GPA carries with UC. However, if you're coming from another institution that's not a UC, you come in with a 0.0 GPA.
Correct. Yeah. So if you came from UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Merced, whatever GPA you have there carries over here 100%. Even if you just took some UC summer classes, because summer is open to the public in different locations, those classes will impact your UC SD GPA. But if you came from any sort of community college or CSU or another 4-year, any of those classes are going to come in on your academic history as T for transfer, and then the letter grade, which does not impact your UC GPA. But I guess in a bigger advising perspective, you got to think about the big picture. What are you trying to do at the end? If you're trying to go to med school, you're trying to go to grad school, a lot of them will recalculate your GPA to include everything. So you can still look through and be like, I have a 4.0 from UCSD, but in reality, if you had some other grades at other institutions, it may be recalculated to include your actual GPA.
See a couple more specific questions that are marked here. So maybe those would just get some attention from our panelists here. They're a bit more specific. There are quite a few questions regarding completing either UC Reciprocity or IGETC over summer. If that's the case, should folks still submit their transcript now before the first deadline, or should they wait and submit a transcript at end of summer?
That's a
Timothy.
great question. It's very common. So they need to send a transcript that shows their spring grades posted by the July 1st deadline. Then they would send a second official transcript if they take courses at the same college or if they go to another college. But they do have to make sure that that July 1st deadline is met, and then they would send subsequent to that any additional transcripts with summer grades.
Okay,
Tessa, I see one that I want to answer, if that's okay.
please, yeah.
So I see one I flagged, I think I found it. Would the IGETC ethnic studies requirement cover the DEI requirement for UCSD? So again, ethnic studies is a newer, it's area 7, I believe, on the IGETC now. And DEI stands for diversity, equity, inclusion at UCSD. So like it was mentioned earlier, every student has to take a class from a specific approved list for diversity, equity, inclusion. If the course that you completed for your area IGETC ethnic studies, so whatever course from that approved list that your community college provided for you, if that specific course has an approved approximation, so an articulation agreement to a UCSD class that is also on the approved list of DEI courses, then yes, it will be accepted. You cannot assume that just because you met ethnic studies area of IGETC that DEI is fulfilled. This is a university requirement that goes through Senate. All the classes have to be vetted by UCSD faculty. And then when they're reviewing agreements between community colleges, an example I can use is like sociology. If you have a sociology class that you took at a community college and you've looked at assist.org, you've looked at the agreement, you see that it approximates to sociology at UCSD, you double check the list of approved DEI courses. It has that articulation agreement. It says, yep, it's equal to this course at UCSD that's also on this list. Yep, check the box, it's met. Otherwise, it's not. Even if the class is super similar, and we see this all the time, even if you see a class that is like, hey, it says this is, Chicano studies, great, I'm going to do that. I see you have a class that's maybe potential. If it doesn't have that approximation to a vetted course that UCSD faculty have approved, then it does not fulfill that requirement. The pathway for that is that you can petition with the department directly, but most likely, if it's not a newer class, they've already looked through it and already determined that it doesn't fulfill all the learning outcomes that our class does. So don't assume that just because you have the ethnic studies area done, that it will go to DEI. It may, because if it has the approximation, great, but don't assume it. It has to be in a direct approximation. And since this is a university requirement, colleges do not have authority to just piece things together and put it in there. Like I mentioned earlier, in the summer, Ravel College, myself included, will be going through and seeing, hey, is this science class enough to meet our science? That's the authority that we have at the colleges. We do not have that authority with the DEI because that is a university requirement. So you have to make sure it's specific. Otherwise, take another class. I'm sure it's not going to hurt you.
Janine, that's a really complete and consummate answer, and I appreciate that. And for students who are wondering about that requirement, it can often overlap with a college upper division general education course, and even sometimes with some major courses. So you can often look for an overlap with the DEI requirement and an upper division GE or even major requirement.
I do see that we are at 4 o'clock. And I know that some of our panelists need to transition to a different meeting. So thank you so much for being here today. If our advising folks have another moment, I can leave those open for advising specific questions, but we will log off here in just a minute or so. But if there's, I do see some folks still typing there. So thank you so much for everything today. And we will just wrap up with these final few questions. I'm going to stop our recording so that we're not just being recorded on typing, but we so appreciate all the information. And we'll look forward to seeing hopefully some of you next week for STEP to talk about financial aid. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you and welcome, everyone.